Juxtapose is a sorcery that costs 3 generic and 1 blue mana. You and target player exchange control of the creature you each control with the greatest mana value, then exchange control of artifacts the same way. If 2 or more permanents a player controls are tied for the greatest, their controller chooses one of them. That's pretty interesting, right? I definitely wouldn't call this an insanely playable card because it depends on your opponent having high value creatures and or artifacts, but when it works, it works. This seems like it could be a really funny commander card, but in 1v1 this is super not likely to be relevant. Also, this is off topic, but I screwed up my camera. Don't buy refurbished junk. I don't know how to make entertaining visuals, but hopefully this video isn't too bad without my ugly mug to scare you away. But let's talk about Juxtapose. This card is cool. I like this card a lot because the effect is a fairly common effect, but it's executed in such a unique way, especially for the time. Juxtapose is from Legends, and Legends does have some cards that are kind of simple effects on the face, but are also incredibly confusing to fully comprehend. Just effects that have a lot of different ways they can go crazy, like Chains of Mephistopheles. But we're talking about Juxtapose. So I think the game plan with a card like this is pretty simple, right? You have artifacts and creatures that are pretty bad, right? And you hope your opponent also has artifacts and creatures, but they aren't pretty bad. Then you take their not pretty bad things, and you give them your pretty bad things, and now you have things that are not pretty bad, and they have things that are pretty bad. Simple stuff, right? Also, I guess it's important to mention that this is a card with some niche interactions, so let's kind of talk about that quick. Like, what happens if somebody doesn't have a creature but you both have artifacts? Well, you don't exchange creatures, but you still exchange artifacts. And the same, but opposite, happens if you both have creatures, but not artifacts. It's also important to note that this card doesn't target the permanents being exchanged, so if your creature or artifact has hexproof or shroud, it doesn't matter, it can still be exchanged. And here's a funny hypothetical. What happens if you have, say, a Banalish hero and I guess an Icy Manipulator? For some reason. And your opponent has a Colossus of Sardia and a City in a Bottle, I guess. Well, you exchange creatures first, right? So you would give them your Banalish hero and get their Colossus of Sardia, which is a good deal. Then you would exchange artifacts, so they would get your Colossus of Sardia and give you their City in a Bottle. What a good deal. The point, I guess, with this obvious example is to showcase that this card can do some dumb things because of the order of resolution. That's just something to keep in mind if you're going to play Juxtapose. I guess if you're a big brain genius, you could set this up so it works out the other way, where you get all the good stuff and they get fucked, but that's one of those things where your opponent has to play ball with you by having cards of the right type and mana value for that to work. So good luck with that. But I don't think I would rely on trying to do that. It's definitely funny in Commander though. What are the odds this video is also a short one? I keep picking these cards that are really funny to me, that I think are interesting and don't get spotlighted much, but then I'm shocked when I don't have more than 5 minutes worth of things to say about them. Oh well. Juxtapose is maybe a word you haven't heard of before. It's not the most uncommon word, but I don't really see it come up in conversation all that often. It basically just means placing things together to contrast or compare. These things could be concepts as well, and placing them together could be as nebulous as just highlighting 2 ideas in the same conversation to showcase the differences. It doesn't really have to be physical objects, is what I'm trying to get at. Yeah, Juxtapose. I bet that made sense. This card is really funny. It's kind of complicated in very niche situations, but it's also pretty simple when you just look at the core concept of the card. I think that's pretty neat. But I don't really have anything else to say about the mechanics, so let's talk about this bad boy's art. This is the best part of the card in my opinion. This dude is so fucking funny. This was illustrated by Justin Hampton, and I'm usually not a fan of Justin's work. It's not like awful or anything, but it doesn't usually resonate with me the same way a lot of the other artists do. But Juxtapose is his best art, in my opinion. This is some of the funniest shit of all time. Just look at this dude. What swagger, what charisma, what confidence. This is a Rizzler if I've ever seen one. Seriously, this art is just so fucking funny to me, and it's hard to express why, but I also just think it's really well executed. The anatomy is pretty accurate for a made-up creature. The contrast is also fantastic. The sky is beautiful, and the whole piece manages to make exceptional use of shading. The army in the background just being a silhouette really ties the piece together for me, and the little details are funny as fuck as well. The arrows that are missing as the Rizzler just walks the walk without a fuck to give. The drooling is also really fucking funny, and the sword being handed to him is just, it's fantastic. I don't know, this art is just so funny to me. I'm a big fan of this piece. I guess if I had anything else to say, it's that cards like this just really highlight my favorite part of Legends. Cards that are sort of simple on their face, but have so many niche interactions and are just kind of weird, kind of good, but also just really funny. I think that's pretty magical. But I would really love to hear what you think of Juxtapose. Did you ever successfully use this card? Do you think the art is stupid? Do you think it's awesome? Do you think the card sucks? Like, I would just like to hear your opinion in the comments, if you're willing to take the time. But that's all I have for you today as far as Juxtapose goes. Hopefully I get my camera situation sorted out here pretty quickly, and so you can go back to looking at my ugly ass face. Hopefully the visuals weren't too bad and I managed to come up with something funny. But like I said, that's all I have for you today, so feel free to like the video if you liked it. You can subscribe if you give a shit, but either way, I hope you have a magical day. Thanks for watching.